Murphy, but here's some comments from Mizzou coach Eli Drinkwitz.
Just hit the podium and pitched a 30-team playoff. Walk me through that. Is that something you've been stewing on? Is that off the top of the head? We're freestyling up there?
No, it's not really something that's outrageous. It's based off of the 12-team playoff where you had automatic qualifiers, but now we've decided we want to expand it to 16. So instead of doing 11-5, which you're going to put 11 teams in the hands of a human committee that nobody's going to agree. They're all going to have implicit bias. Why would we even do that? I mean, nobody thinks that the NCAA, we spend hours arguing about who was the 69th and 70th team in the NCAA tournament. What do you think we're going to do with the 11 there? So why not expand the opportunities, give 4 play-in games to the SEC, 4 play-in games to the Big Ten, 3 to the ACC, 3 to the Big 12, and say, man, create more opportunities for the fan bases to get excited, create more opportunities for players to compete for championships. And that doesn't sit well with probably some of the blue bloods who are going to consistently be ranked in preseason rankings in the top 25 explicitly because of their names, not necessarily because of their teams, but because of the brand bias that we have in college football. Instead, make people earn it. Make people earn it on the field. Let's have less talk, which doesn't do great for these kind of events. And let's settle it on the football field. And to me, that's what play-in games are. If you're telling me in the SEC, hey, you got to finish in the top 8 for a chance to compete for a playoff berth, that's doable. Then it's not about, oh, well, this is the hardest conference in college football. Yeah, it is, but you got to figure out a way to be 8th. In the NFL, you got to figure out a way to be one of the best 4 teams in your division to make the playoffs. 44% of the teams in the NFL make the playoffs. We're talking about 10% of college football teams going to make the playoffs, and we think that's going to keep fan bases encouraged. We think that's going to continue to create multi-billion-dollar industry. College football is still reliant on financial assistance from fans. We can talk about ESPN dollars and all we want, but they still need fans to come to the games and sell tickets. And if at the end of the day, in the next 5 or 10 years, it's still the same 15 teams making it, what are you going to do to the rest of these fan bases? They're going to quit showing.
So there's Eli Drinkwitz of Missouri with J.D. Piquel and On 3. So that was the interview. And then there was a tweet about Eli Drinkwitz, and part of it was in the tweet, it said, explains his 30-team college football model. We're talking about 10% of college football teams are going to make the playoffs. He actually then countered what was up on Twitter from On 3. It's not the first time that On 3 has been countered this week.
It's also who he had just done that exact interview with was On 3.
Yeah, that's it. Well, yeah. No, that's exactly
so he did
right.
the interview with him, and they turned around, and then they clickbait him.
So here's his response to that. That's not what was proposed or how it was presented. Maybe evaluate the idea before just assuming and make it an aggregate headline. Championship Saturday, each conference have play-in games to the 16-team playoff instead of having a selection committee. That's the idea that happens in December. So that's from Eli Drinkwitz. And I kind of like the fact he was bringing up the fact that, listen, we know who's going to get these at-large bids. We know the names of them, the logos, et cetera. So earlier this week, it was, I think, in fact, Katie Rader sent me a direct message, and I'd already read this. I don't think we ever discussed it, about the story that Texas Tech, when they have to pay NIL, is paying 30% more because of getting people to Lubbock. It was an absolutely ridiculous headline. I'm not saying that there might not need to be more to go to certain schools, but they got blasted for that because it was kind of just like a note in a tweet after that story had been written. It's almost as if someone said, hey, you need to make sure this is included in this story. And obviously Tech fans are furious about it. I get that. And I'm not sure really why that tweet had to go up either. But there's a couple of times this week where it's happened.
That story was just ridiculous. But
the story was a good story about the questioning whether you have to pay somebody 30% more to go to Lubbock. I get the thought there, but to just like add that in later on down the line that day, as if someone needed, hey, by the way, you need to make sure this is a part of your story. It just, to me, was kind of a cheap shot.
Yeah, that was a cheap shot. That's all I was I don't even want to really dignify it. We've talked about it at length about how stupid it's now gotten. I do think that like some places might have to play a little bit of up market if they've never won anything major before, just because it's proof of concept. It's just like any other walk of life. But to the 30-team playoff thing, when I first read the headline, I was like, 30? I don't know how he's going to make it work. But if you told me that championship weekend, which is like last year was kind of boring and a little bit inconsequential for something like the SEC championship didn't really matter all that much. Like it was just for seeding. Like they were both going to get to play. Like the only thing that was different with the SEC championship is that one team was going to have to play another game.
Yeah.
Like, and so like,
and the other one got a bye.
And the other one got a bye. So that to me is not enough drama. This for me feels like the closest you can come to a conference tournament for football. So if you told me there were a bunch of games on championship weekend on Friday and Saturday night, and there was a big chance for, I mean, heck, if you're talking about, 30, all these different things, if there's a chance for the number, 20 team to knock out the number 4 team or something like that crazy, hell, I'd watch that. Like that'd be great.
So if you don't win on championship weekend, you're done?
I would love that. I would love real consequences. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
so have you been for this the entire time we've talked about it?
No. I mean, like
just now,
I'm not totally against that. Like I'm for fixing championship weekend. Now, look, if that's all it is, it's just a conference tournament for teams getting in, then that's fine. But if it's anything more than that, then no. Like, because that's what it feels like to me as a conference basketball tournament.
Yeah, that's what the idea has always
been.
Well,
the conference basketball tournaments give you an automatic bye or an automatic berth into the tournament, but other temes can still make the playoff.
Yeah. Am I getting judged here? I don't know. I'm
just
confused.
What?
No, I mean, like, I don't know. Like I'm kind of like, I don't hate the idea. I still just want 12 or 16.
No, I followed up a question with you.
Yeah.
I asked about if, in fact, you do not win on championship weekend, are you out of the college football playoff?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see like real stakes on something. If you're going to do that, you have to have real stakes.
There's nobody that would agree to that part.
Are we going to turn around and see that Ohio State can be number 1 in the country, lose on championship weekend, and be out? Hell yeah, I'd be for that.
Yeah, but that's not what it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
because
that's what he said it was going to be, though.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just asking the question. I don't need to get defensive about it. It's just I was trying to make sure what you were saying is because we've talked about the play-in thing for like 6 months, and I don't think we've ever really been all that on board. And then now you're like, dude, that'd be badass. And it's like, okay, well, I guess he's saying it a different version.
But the play-in, the way it was described before, was the 6 and 7 teams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that garbage. Like I want, if there's going to be a play-in, then everybody should have to play it in.
Right. Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just be like, oh well. All right, good luck, Cincinnati. Good luck, Mississippi State, on your greatest year ever. Good luck. Like, no, look,
that's what I was trying to get clarification on because that's been talked about of like, let's have the 6 plays the 4 and then the 2 and the 3, they don't even play. And the number 1's already got their first round bye. And it's like, so we're having like this mid playoff instead of championship games. Like,
that I hate. But if you're telling me that, Alabama's going to play Vanderbilt and Vanderbilt could knock them out. Like, yeah, that's drama. That's what I want. Can Duke go out and knock out Clemson? Sure. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do that because championship weekend. I mean, what's to it? Like it's championship weekend is about to go the way of most of the bowl games. Where you're like, why am I watching this other than just to watch a football game?
I mean, I'm watching it to see the conference champion crowned. I mean, like I think this whole like the conference championship doesn't matter at all. Talk that's had a lot of permeation through conversations these last few months has been really interesting to see. It's like with the bigger conferences, especially, like why would we not want to pit the top 2 teams against each other? It's like, oh well, they're already in the playoff anyways. Well, now they're not even playing on conference championship weekend and. Now we're having Mississippi State or somebody playing on championship weekend. Who would I rather watch? Ohio State versus Michigan, or would I rather watch Mississippi State versus Arkansas to try to win a game to go play Oklahoma to win a game to go be in the play? And so I get where there's interest in that, but I just think like the way that conference championship weekends kind of been brushed aside since we have these bigger conferences is not something I totally agree with because a lot of these teams don't play each other. And they just get crowned the regular season conference champion based off of the draw they got and whether they're good enough to compete against that draw. So I don't know, man. I like seeing Arizona State. Yeah, they blew out Iowa State, so it wasn't entertaining. But I think where my issue is, I just don't need to be constantly entertained 24/7. I guess I don't need everything to have like monster stakes on it for me to be entertained by it or for it to matter to me. But I feel like in sports now, everything has to have like something on the line. And I think a lot of it has to do with the gambling culture that's around now, which I'm not saying is wrong or not, but it's like nobody can just watch a game and then just turn it off and move on from it. It's like, it's got to have a parlay involved, and it's got to have like an elimination involved, and it's got to have, and I don't know, man, like I just don't need everything to be turned to 10 all the time. So I'm just maybe not the audience they're going for at this point. But his idea, it wasn't presented the exact way, I guess, that he said it. I'm not against playing games to some degree, but yeah, I'm more in line with you. Like I want to see the teams that matter. I don't want to see the middle of the pack competing now where we would have seen the best teams playing for a title. Now the person who, like Texas is your regular, they're your SEC champion last year. Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, technically, Georgia was.
But they wouldn't have played under, like that's what I'm saying.
No, technically because of the way the tournament are in
depending
football,
on what format you did. Like if you're doing that format that Paul's talking about where it's like, oh, well, they're already in the playoff, and so Texas wins the title, and Georgia's already in, and so-and-so's already in, and now Alabama has to play for it. Now that's somewhat interesting, but it's the never-ending conversation around the playoff. Everybody has their opinions on it. I don't know what's best necessarily. I'm open ears, but I do think that we're getting into like the weeds of trying to like, well, no, now it's double elimination, but only if you play in the western side of this. It's like we're getting to that point now with all these damn ideas.
If you're going to expand it that much, there have to be real stakes in that. The elites have to have the risk. Otherwise, what are we doing? Like, if you're swapping out, the 6th or 7th team based on just that random playoff game, to me, that's not the stakes you want. You would want everybody in the conference to have to play one, so there's real stakes that you could lose on what is now championship weekend and wind up not in the playoff. That's the only reason worth doing it.
Then they would never do it.
Well, I mean, like,
because otherwise, like if Texas, Georgia.
Well, that's what he says.
Yeah,
he says the brand bias. And I like that he actually said that. But he also mentioned Epstein at the podium today. He said, I will not be answering questions about Jeffrey Epstein, which was funny. He's definitely a different dude. But I'm glad that he acknowledged the brand bias. I think that's refreshing to hear from a coach in the SEC in particular when they either throw that around like the big weight that it is, or they ride the coattails of those that actually do that. He's actually just saying like, there's brand bias, which everybody knows. And if you don't notice it or you deny that it's there, then you are totally in denial about the sport itself. I mean, I like that he said that part, and he addressed a couple of other things as well. But it seems like you can, first of all, the first thing I thought is like, I wish Mike Leach was still around for all this. Like, my gosh, I wish he was around to be a part of the playoff conversation. He'd have already had the 128 team playoff idea probably out there at this point after having 64 years ago and have a good reason as to why. That would have been fascinating to see him when it actually is a conversation of what he would have thrown in as far as his 2 cents goes.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was a little bit of a different idea. That's kind of what brought you up, is a different idea from Eli Drinkwitz. And he actually took the complete opposite stance. That maybe his commissioner, his conference, and ESPN want to hear.
Yeah, and
good for him.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, if we're going to do that, and look, I don't want the conference championship weekend devalued, but they've devalued it. So either they have to find a way to re-enhance that.
It's devalued because you make the playoff regardless, but doesn't like winning the game still mean something? It
does,
but Arizona State wouldn't have made it.
But but it's not. It does not. Okay. It doesn't carry the same weight in every league.
No, absolutely not.
So the stakes are different in every single league. I would like to see the stakes be the same in every single league. So how do you do that with the conference championship game? You have to enhance that and put real consequences on it somehow. I don't know how that is because I know that Eli Drinkwitz's idea will never come up. But if you have like Penn State and Oregon, both were going to the playoff. Texas and Georgia were both going to the playoff. Clemson and SMU were both not necessarily going to the playoff.
We didn't know that, but
if SMU wins that game, Clemson's not in because they have too many losses, right?
That was going to happen without a play-in format. That was happening regardless last year.
So, but the ACC may not have gotten 2 teams. They might have. I mean, again. Like, so there were some.
So there were stakes. Yeah,
there were stakes on that one. There were stakes on the Big 12, but they weren't really on the other ones.
No,
because it was fait
Iowa
accompli.
State would have gone.
Yeah, Iowa State, but like Arizona State and Iowa State both needed to win that game to guarantee their spot.
Right.
And the loser wasn't guaranteed anything, as opposed to those other two leagues where the loser only had to play another game. That's what I'm saying. The stakes were different across all 4 leagues. And that to me is not. That's what they need to fix.
Yeah, I mean it's different. So it's kind of like college football in general, of like having the same rules for everybody doesn't make any sense. So I mean, I'm all for being open minded and not everything has to remain super traditional. I think we just like tossed the conference. It doesn't mean anything. Just to the side, like it meant something to Arizona State last year. Yeah. Meant something to Clemson last year. So it's not like all or nothing. I don't get that argument. Right. But I'm open minded. The playoff talk though, like I mean, we got to settle on something for God's sakes, man. Like it's going round and round in circles, and I've seen some interesting play-in ideas. I also want to know from the people that are proposing: are we playing till March? Is that when the season ends now? Like,
that's kind of what was brought up.
I mean, we playing 25 games a year for these guys suddenly?
The chat room, and I'm not going to be able to read everybody, but here's an example from General Ursus. I'm sick of this crap, to be honest. Let's just get rid of the playoffs. Go back to the old system. No system is perfect. You can go to the NFL style format. Paxton, who's a UT fan, who's rolling right now, said he's getting more and more frustrated and turned off by it all. A lot of you are saying that. Some of you, you're just kind of tired of it. It seems like there's always something instead of like who is going to make or win a certain conference or a national championship.
My point is raise the stakes for everything. So make sure that there's something, because again, with these big conferences, you're going to wind up with these things. That's what I think we've lost is that, and what I worry about happening is that you don't care about the conference title so much, especially maybe even in a 16-team format where there's more. Like you don't care enough because you're more than likely going to have to play in that first round anyway, unless you're one of those, one of the top 4 bye teams or whatever it is. Well, I guess 16 they play every week. Then why am I going to go all out in it? Why are you not going to wind up in the NFL? And then it winds up a thing like the NFL. You know how many division titles the Cowboys have won since they last won their Super Bowl?
A chunk.
Yeah, and you know what it means?
Nothing.
Diddly poo.
They got to buy. Nothing. Sometimes they got to buy, and they still didn't make it.
And sometimes it doesn't mean they have a buy. If they weren't, like now the way the NFL playoff format works, you can win your division and still have to play in the first round. You just got a medal, but you won the East or the South.
You won the division, and you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's great. But again, when it's been 30 years before you've hoisted the trophy, you get tired of being like, they won the division.
Yeah, but they still got something for winning the division.
Yeah.
They didn't get it they didn't get automatically a first round bye, but they did get something.
Yeah.
Let's just go back to 8 teams. They never did 8.
Hell, I was excited for
4 to 12.
I was excited for like 30 seconds yesterday when the whole conversation about the Big Ten and SEC, and before my eyes absolutely glazed over with that headline again, when it said like, well, maybe we just stay at 12. I was like, whoa, like, hell yeah. Like, maybe we just stay at 12 and we figure all of this out. And I know that's not likely when we asked Brando about it. I mean, not that he's necessarily got the answer all the time, but he talks to enough people and knows enough that especially in the TV business, he understands they're not going to stop there. But yeah, for a second, I was like, you mean we can just sit in something and let it see if it works and if it's great or not? And no, we can't do that. So yeah, now it's on to the next thing. And I just think this offseason has been dominated by legal stuff, which is the case for like the last 3 years. And that's fine to some degree. But I know for me, it gets really old. And so the fact they've made some steps forward in that regard is great. But the other side of it's been dominated by playoff talk. And yeah, they're talking about the playoffs so much, they're turning people away from the thing they've always wanted. And they're going about it in a way where it's just, you see like where it's being tilted and the bias is coming in. And I think people have got tired head over that. I think it's interesting to talk about ideas and whatnot, but when we start talking about like multiple play-in games and this weekend and that weekend, I just think it gets kind of confusing. And so maybe when we actually settle on something and you lay it out in front of me, I'll go, okay, there it is in black and white. But in the meantime, it's just like, it's just confusing. It's confusing because there's a lot of different ideas and not everybody is anywhere nearly on the same page for it all.
We'll have